The American Italian Cultural Center and Museum on South Peters in New Orleans offers event venue space, Italian language classes, dual citizenship and translation services, seminars, genealogy, and trips to Italy. Ciao, AmericanItalianCulturalCenter.com. This program is brought to you in part by the Eugenie and Joseph Jones Family Foundation, a local foundation proud to support education, the arts, and culture in the greater New Orleans area.
I'm Peggy Scott Laborde, and welcome to Steppin Out, with updates from the local restaurant, arts, and entertainment scenes. Joining me, Poppy Tooker. Boy, does she have show and tell. Host of Louisiana Eats on WWNO Radio. Hello.
Hey,
hi there. Making her Steppin Out debut, Gia M.Hamilton. She is the Executive Director and Chief Curator of the New Orleans African American Museum. Welcome.
Welcome.
So good to see you. Hey. Photographer Richard Sexton, here to commemorate, it's incredible, the 30th anniversary edition of the local classic, New Orleans Elegance and Decadence. And yay, also with us, the writer and art historian, Randy Delehanty, who of course wrote the very informed text for the book. Good to see you again too, Randy. Alan Mason is off tonight. Poppy, starting with something very sweet.
Something very sweet, and right here in the middle of the table, we're celebrating National Cheesecake Day, which doesn't come along until July 30th, but they've been celebrating all month at Copeland's Restaurant, and I'll tell you what, if you've never had Al Sr.'s original recipe for Creole cream cheesecake and the pecan crust, you've never lived. So anyway, they're celebrating, rolling out different toppings. This is a blueberry
let's
crumble.
Get a great shot of that.
Yeah, well, we can't really tilt it, but there's pineapple upside down.
It's big.
There's blueberry crumble, and there is a surprise topping that is coming on July the 24th. But the big news about this is, if you want cheesecake from July 30th, Cheesecake Day, through August 1st, they're running a deal. A whole cheesecake is $49 usually. And of course, you can get it by the slice at all the Copelands, but you can buy one and get one free.
Oh my gosh.
Fantastic deal.
Yeah,
Those
that's a deal.
3 days. So anyway, speaking of great deals, you know, it's summertime, and summertime in restaurants is always rough. And our friends at Gabrielle's have a new summer special that I wanted to tell everybody about. Of course, at their darling restaurant right there on Orleans Avenue, you can get any soup, any salad, and holy moly, look at the crab meat on that beautiful salad. Any soup, any salad, and any glass of wine for just $30. And that's Thursday. What a deal that is.
I was going to say, that's a deal.
So
that is a deal.
Go to Gabrielle and take advantage of this incredible bargain. Chef Greg's food, the best. And of course, speaking of summertime specials, I know Peggy and I always count the days down until it's time for culinary. And boy, those menus are starting to roll in, so get ready. But there's another restaurant week that I think is brand new. Magazine Street is having their own restaurant week, and from picnic and provisions way uptown, all the way downtown to gris-gris, to bittersweet confections. There are choices. There's over 25 participants, and they've kind of made it into sort of a scavenger hunt. So you get a passport, and at every participating restaurant you get a sticker, and then you can enter to win foodie prizes. So if you have kids who love restaurants and coffee shops, maybe that's a fun idea. Hit Magazine Street. And then, of course, Cocktailian Alert, Tales of the Cocktail starts Sunday. They're coming from all over the world to celebrate here in New Orleans. But a super cool event that you don't need tickets for. It's open to the public. This year, the Four Seasons Chandelier Bar is hosting the world's best bars. These are the bars that have been judged the best, and you're going to have bartenders Sunday through Wednesday, Berlin, Miami Beach, Puerto Rico. These bars are taking over the Chandelier Bar. My pick is Wednesday night. The #1 best bar in the world is in Barcelona. You can experience from 8:30 till midnight on Sunday. Now, it's also Christmas in July next week. Now, Peggy, do you remember a restaurant Christmas in July celebration? I don't. It's always like furniture and appliance stores. But this year at the Bakery Bar, they're celebrating Tuesday night, Christmas in July, 5-course dinner for $65 with cocktail pairings, and they're accepting toy donations for the New Orleans mission, and Mrs. Claus will be making a guest appearance. But another great Christmas in July idea is at Toop's Meadery, where they are hosting Christmas in July with Garrison Brothers, which was the first legal whiskey distillery in Texas. And that special night, multi-courses, they want you to wear your ugly sweaters. Santa will be there collecting toys for the homeless children at Covenant House. There's going to be bourbon brine turkey legs, bourbon brined pecan pie. But let me tell you what, if you've never had a chance to drink bourbon with that jolly old elf, Isaac Toops, go to Toop's Meadery Tuesday night. You've never lived. And the Garrison Brothers will be there too.
All right. Thank you so much, Poppy.
Thanks.
Wow. Lots of options here too. Gia, once again, welcome to our show. And I know that you are very much a part of the rejuvenation, if you will, of the New Orleans African American Museum. It's been around for a while, but it's been dormant. Give us a little bit of back history and let's focus on the future.
Absolutely. So the New Orleans African American Museum in historic Treme opened in 1996. I actually was a docent at that time. So that's my origin point with the museum, was that I was a young person who really didn't know what career path, and several decades later found myself back in my city, in my neighborhood, right on Dumaine, and really saw that the museum had been closed for about 7 years. So we're a 2-acre campus.
In Treme?
In Treme, we have 7 historic buildings, including the Villa Mayor, which was built in 1829. And these buildings were just sitting here. So as a native New Orleanian, as a person who was living in the neighborhood, I really felt like my skill set and just my passion, were really needed to help reopen the museum. So
there were some hard times, some financial hard times, but things are looking better.
That's right. That's right. I mean, a New Orleans story, right? A New Orleans story that resources were a challenge. There were lots of issues from the past, lots of infrastructure that had to be rebuilt. But, we're tough here in this
city. We're going to
city.
show some images on the present today.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right. And so today, we've been open for about 4 years, but we've had 10 exhibits. We now have a collection that's about a 600-piece collection.
Wow.
And we've done 3 archaeological digs on that campus. So we have 200 additional artifacts
now,
that we're
what would
adding.
those items be? Would they be like bottles or an example?
That's exactly right. Bottles, we're finding metal and ironwork. So a lot of items that relate to the labor that was happening in that neighborhood at that time. So really looking at like the late 1800s. So this is really exciting for us to have collected these items and now to start to register them and do some of the interpretation and research on those items.
Gee whiz. So what is your goal? What would you like to, apart from obviously financial security, which you all are there or getting there?
We are.
But what makes you smile?
What makes me smile is that we invite community back into Treme. So New Orleanians get to just reestablish themselves in this amazing neighborhood and all of its history. And so we have both locals that come in for our Saturdays programming. Every 3rd Saturday, we have a free program where you can come in and see the exhibitions, have teaching artists teach your little ones or you how to make something or do something. It's also an opportunity to connect with the local business community. So it's a really nice moment in time for us to activate all the amazing things.
And it's also a music space from what we can see too.
That's right,
huh?
a music space. We've got all the newer and the older brass bands that come into the neighborhood. So there are lots of things happening. The St. Augustine Church, the Backstreet Cultural Museum, Museum, Le Petit Jazz Museum, and the New Orleans African American Museum.
Now, I know that you are trying to put together, or you are putting together, a bit of a tour of some of those facilities. Tell us about that.
That's right. So we have an experience called the Treme Experience. We want our visitors from all over the world to definitely enjoy the French Quarter. That's really important, but we want to get them into other neighborhoods. We want them to experience sort of that neighborhood feel that we get to experience as locals. And so for us, that really always involves the history. So starting off at Congo Square, St. Augustine Church that has this amazing, several generations of just activism and spirituality in our neighborhood. Backstreet Cultural Museum, which was started by Sylvester Francis, now being led by his daughter, that has this incredible collection of media footage of second lines and Mardi Gras and Black Masking Indian culture. And then finally, Le Petit Jazz and New Orleans African American Museum. So we get to show contemporary and historic work right in our
So you've
neighborhood.
organized it, and we just go to the website for more information about taking it?
That's right. You go directly to the website, which is www.noaam.org, and you can go under Space Rental and Tours and just click on the tour and you'll see the Treme Experience.
And once again, that is at 1417, 1418 Governor Nichols.
That's right in Treme, North Villeray and Marais.
If you had a dream, an immediate wish right now, what is one thing you'd like to see happen, like right now?
We would love to see our entire 2-acre campus renovated. So we will be embarking on a really ambitious capital campaign later on in the year. So we hope that you join us on the journey. That's what we've been asking everyone, to join us on the journey of revitalizing this beautiful 2-acre campus in Treme.
Can folks join as a member? Do you have that yet?
That's right. You can join as a member. You can rent our space. You can sign up for that incredible Treme Experience tour. And you can come each third Saturday for our free day. It's a free family day. So
we're going to plug that one more time at the end of our show.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. It's great to have you with us. My goodness, Richard and Randy, your book, New Orleans Elegance and Decadence, and we're going to show the new cover, okay, but it's hard to believe it's been 30 years. And it is a book that is a must in New Orleans, of course, in New Orleans reference libraries, if you will, because it really encapsulates the city and kind of that it's okay if we have some peeling paint and the decadence, the elegance and the decadence. What were you trying to do exactly?
Well, I think my goal was always to show what I felt was the most interesting thing about New Orleans, and that was that, particularly at that time, and this is in the early 90s, but it would also apply to the late 80s, people of ordinary financial means were able to live in some extraordinary architecture, and that's still true today, perhaps to a lesser extent. But
and here's the cover. Of course, this is not to interrupt, but to interrupt. That is Peter Yoakum's house.
Peter Yoakum's house on Toulouse Street in the French Quarter.
With peeling plaster.
Yes, and it had been in the,
and that's
family.
Okay.
It had been in the family for his parents had lived there, and so he has a long history at that address, and
Yeah, and Randy, you're very, very, as I said, informed text. If someone didn't know New Orleans, had never been to New Orleans, the best thing you could possibly do is to hand them this book and have them not only see the wonderful photos, but you do explain the city, which is not an easy thing to do.
Well, the idea in the book is to first capture your attention with Richard's wonderful photographs that take you literally inside some of the most interesting residences in the city. And then my task was to introduce that by giving a succinct but I think accurate overview of the history of the culture of the city. Why is it different? What are the different strands that came together here to create this particular culture, which is represented in the buildings that Richard photographed?
Well, what I love about those photos, and let's go to the images, that it includes photographs of the interiors of houses by artists, and also exteriors, we should point out, too. This is the most marvelous view, because most people don't get to see this view of course, Algiers, the old and the new here, you know.
Yes.
But Randy, you kind of separated the book, didn't you, in terms of talking and images. You even have an update about house floats.
Yes. In the historical introduction, I cover the last 30 years in 2.5 pages. I'm interested,
bless you.
including Katrina and the devastation, and then the rebirth of the city afterwards. It tries to give a continuous view of the culture, of the things that have happened that make it a resilient city.
Yeah. And Richard, we should point out, though, that you all didn't mess with the photos in terms of these photos are from the 30 years ago. So
Yes.
sadly, some of these houses are no longer owned by the same owner, or maybe some of the persons unfortunately have passed. But look at George Dureau, that studio
and-
apartment. Oh my gosh,
Yes,
studio
that's-
/ apartment.
And he's a great loss, too.
He is, but
We
it's-
really
you-
miss George in New Orleans,
you
but this was a
preserved it.
magical space.
It's the record of a moment, but what's interesting is that the culture endures. And so that particular assemblages like Dureau's studio aren't there anymore. There are houses and places that have evolved since then that convey the same spirit. The interesting way that New Orleanians mix up art, high and low, black and white, made out of rich materials or poor materials. One of the fascinating things here in New Orleans is the way that a particular attitude or aesthetic continues even from 30 years ago.
Well, one of my favorite words, thanks to you all, is patina.
Well, there's a lot
it's
of that.
okay. There's
Yeah.
a lot of that, you know. And here's an exterior of one of the most talented couples I know of, Bob Tannen and Jean Nathan.
Yes.
And even here they are with this, you know, a wonderful historic house, but they have his artwork, his sculptures right in the front. And of course, the interior of the house is full of
Yeah.
wonderful art.
And Bob Tannen is the youngest person I know who lives in the city. He has the
true.
youngest spirit, and that is
Yeah.
also part of characteristic of New Orleans.
Yes, and the other thing is you all really focus on the flora and the fauna, if you would, of the, you know, you can't dismiss the weather and the exteriors and lots of banana trees, huh?
Well, we quote Charlotte Seidenberg, who once said, "It's impossible not to garden in New Orleans."
Oh, I love that quote, absolutely.
If you stand still, something will grow on your toes and probably your hair. And it is that kind of lush tropical environment that is another key element that Elegance and Decadence captures, I think, quite well.
Well, you all have done such a great job on that. But Richard, it must have been really hard to determine, you know, what was going. I mean, you're obviously your life is photography. How did you select the pictures? I mean, what was the thought process and all of that?
Well, you know, you just go around and ask, and people like Peter Patou, for instance, who was one of the first people we met, and he seemed to know everybody and suggested all of these places. So you go around and you look, and then you talk to people, and they'll say, "Oh, you should go see my friend so-and-so's house as well." So one thing led to another, and what I said when I would talk to people is, look, I'm looking for people who are living in old houses in interesting ways. And I didn't really describe it in more detail than that, just to see, because you do need a variety. And it was done very differently.
And it's somewhat like a cocktail party, the ideal cocktail party, because one of the hobbies of New Orleanians is to introduce you to people they think you would like.
Yeah.
And in that way, these houses that are displayed in Elegance and Decadence are a kind of a chain of
Yeah.
interconnections. It's very subtle, but it's there.
Yeah.
You also
Most
have
of these people knew each other. for
Well, I was going to
instance.
say, you have a lot of visual artists, okay,
Yes.
including
Yes.
Elizabeth Shannon and Clifton Webb.
Yes.
And that was fascinating to see their workspaces,
Yes.
too.
Yes, yes, and neither of them are in the old Temperance Hall on Spain Street anymore.
Oh.
They have studios and they continue to be active. In,
And they
the New
continue
Orleans
to
area.
create similar art
Yeah,
now.
yeah. So they're still around, but just not there. But it was very much a moment when they were there together. With Clifton was on the ground floor with his studio, Elizabeth Shannon upstairs. They're all in the same building.
one of my favorite pictures, and we showed it just now, the Costas in the Garden District, and that red, that bright red. That, I mean, that's obviously a very conscious decision. That's not what you'd normally find in a Lower Garden District mansion, but they did it, and it works so beautifully, doesn't it?
Yes, yes, and that's true of virtually all of the houses are fascinating in one way or another, and were done really just with creativity more than anything else. It wasn't really about having money or hiring the best designers or architects or any of that. It was really about the personal creativity of the people that lived there.
Yeah. Well, I'm so glad you were able to do this. I'm just amazed, though it's been 30 years, and we actually had the joy of working together on a documentary for House and Garden, HGTV, based on the book. And how much fun was that to spend 2 to 3 days with 5 of the homeowners, and the generosity of that, too. Gia, back to you for a second, though. It sounds like we're all living in fairly historic neighborhoods here, too. What is, as somebody who, your perspective as the head of this museum, you're dealing with the past. This has got to be, and you live in an old house. What does that mean to you?
I believe it has to do with place keeping. Knowing the history of a place, of the land. We live in a 300-year-old city, and it feels like such a privilege in this country to be able to say that, right? This is our American antiquity, if you will, and we get to sort of uncover constant, layers of our history here. So for us, we're thinking about the Villa Mayor and doing that sort of the historical references, and it really brings up new narratives, new ideas about exhibition making. So for us, the houses really do inform how we think about our collection, how we think about the stories that we want to tell. And we're working right now on an oral history project interviewing the 30 last originally rooted families that are in Treme. So for us, pairing that with visuals and having the houses sort of speak and tell their own stories and having those people sit on our campus, it really is, a sensorial experience for our visitors, and we're hoping that can really be a part of the work that we do at the museum that's a bit different.
And New Orleans people are collectors. We collect things. We collect friends. And we collect objects and things, and we collect art. For a small city, this has an amazing art scene. And part of what you see in a New Orleanian interior will be many layers of art, because we like to collect things. Things speak to us. And our museums are the places where we see these things the best.
One of the things I really liked, one of the sections, was cultural revelry. So you show the interiors, and you show the interior of float dens and sort of close-ups on some Mardi Gras vestiges, but intertwining that in Paul Pochet's in the bedroom, where you see the mosquito hawks, I guess, in one of the photographs too. A lot of locals, even more so I think these days, maybe it was inspired by the book, have pieces of what we deem of as like floats, the paper flowers that, and I think I have to credit a little bit of Henri Schindler for that, because for so many years in the design of his floats for the various crews,
we don't like to let things go.
Exactly, we definitely don't. And I think that paper flowers are becoming even more and more popular too.
Yes, it's become an art form. And the house floats, as you notice, which I end my essay with,
so glad you did.
The way even after Katrina we found a new way to celebrate Carnival. Since we couldn't parade in the streets, we do it with our houses. And I think that sense of invention is what is essential about New Orleans, and what makes it, for me, a very satisfying place to live.
Richard, cameras these days, okay, are you, with this 30 years ago, what kind of camera did you use?
That was shot mostly with a view camera, a big camera that's with a bellows and on a tripod.
Wow.
And everything shot on film. That wasn't the only camera that I used, but it was the primary camera. And then for this new edition, everything had to be scanned. It was scanned originally, but who knows where those scans are now 30 years later. So we had to redo all of that. It's, as I described, digitally remastered in a way, just like music.
Digitally remastered,
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah. And so that's why we're very proud of the new look and the quality of the production value that's in the new edition.
And for a signed copy, plug, you could go to Octavia Books, is
Yes,
that correct?
we just had a signing recently, and they have a large supply of the new edition, all signed.
And also at your favorite local bookstore, I'm sure too.
Yes, it's always
but
great to
available.
patronize
But
those guys.
once again, congratulations. It's now time for our picks of the week. So, Poppy.
Well, I announced this early. There are still a few tickets left to Dickie Brennan's Steakhouse Summer Beef Picnic. If you've never been, it is about the most fun indoor picnic. It's all grass-fed beef from local producers. It's fabulous. So get those tickets and go.
Gia, once again, those special Saturdays coming up.
My pick would, of course, be the New Orleans African American Museum's every third Saturday, the Saturdays at NOAM, where you get to come and patronize local businesses, make art, see all of the exhibitions, and all for free.
All right.
Well, our next gig with New Orleans Elegance and Decadence will be an exhibit at the Ogden Museum of Southern Art. It opens on September the 21st, and it will be up through the end of November, basically, but September 21st is the opening.
Thank you. Randy, your website. You have a wonderful website because you both have written many other books. We want folks to know about those too.
My website is my name, www.randolphdelehanty.com. You'll find quite a bit of information there on other projects that I've done in the city, like the Pontalba exhibit that I did. But my pick would still have to be Octavia Books.
Okay, absolutely. And now my picks very quickly. Fashioning America, from grit to glamour, has opened up at the New Orleans Museum of Art, and you can see all kinds. There's Zendaya in a Tommy Hilfiger, okay, on view, is a dress from the 1800s, also made in New Orleans. You can see that, and a lot of national designers. So even a cape worn by Big Frida. Can you believe that? And the exhibit will run through November 26th. Go to noma.org for ticket info. And then don't forget Tennessee Williams, A Sweet Bird of Youth, opens at the Marigny Opera House. And over in Araby, we've got actually classes on August the 5th and for children and for teenagers. Check out their website, and you've got all the information right there. And we want to thank you all so very much for being here, and thank you very much for watching. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Peggy.
Thank you.
The American Italian Cultural Center and Museum on South Peters in New Orleans offers event venue space, Italian language classes, dual citizenship and translation services, seminars, genealogy, and trips to Italy. Ciao! AmericanItalianCulturalCenter.com. This program is brought to you in part by the Eugenie and Joseph Jones Family Foundation, a local foundation proud to support education, the arts, and culture in the greater New Orleans area.